A locked door is not a rejection. It is not an accusation. It is not a declaration of hostility. It is one of the most basic expressions of autonomy that exists. When we lock our doors, we are not saying, "I fear everyone." We are saying, "This space is mine," and access to it is granted deliberately. Trust does not erase boundaries. It requires them. And when someone crosses a boundary quietly, with good intentions and a casual shrug, the harm can feel more unsettling than an obvious betrayal. This case is not about theft, or criminal intent, or even malicious behavior. It is about consent, about who gets to decide who has access to your private space, and about what happens when someone assumes that their judgment overrides your right to say no. Our protagonist is 32 years old and lives alone. One of his close friends, Derek, is 31. Their relationship is not superficial. They have helped each other over the years. Real help. The kind that builds trust over time. This is not an acquaintance. This is not a flaky friend. This is someone he considers genuinely close. That context matters, because this story does not begin with suspicion. It begins with trust. About a month ago, our protagonist had to travel for work for a week. Before leaving, he asked Derek a simple favor. Stop by the apartment a couple of times, feed the cat, and make sure everything was okay. Derek agreed without hesitation. To make that possible, our protagonist gave him a spare key. This is normal. This is reasonable. This is how trust operates in adult friendships. When he returned from the trip, everything seemed fine. The cat was okay. The apartment was undisturbed. He thanked Derek and asked for the spare key back. Derek handed it over. At this point, the story could have ended. About a week later, during a casual conversation, Derek mentioned something offhandedly, not with guilt, not with hesitation, with the tone of someone sharing a practical detail he assumed would be appreciated. He said that while he had the spare key, he made a copy of it, just in case. His reasoning followed quickly. He didn't want to lose the only spare while our protagonist was out of town. He also thought that since his friend lives alone, it's smart for someone to have a backup key for emergencies. He added that he meant to mention it earlier but forgot. To Derek, this was a footnote. To our protagonist, it was a record scratch. Our protagonist didn't accuse Derek of planning anything shady. He didn't jump to conclusions. He didn't assume malicious intent. His discomfort wasn't about fear of a break-in. It was about consent. He never asked Derek to copy the key. He never agreed to someone having indefinite access to his home. And now, without his knowledge or permission, someone else possessed that access. He asked Derek directly if he still had the copy. Derek said yes and acted like the concern was overblown. He insisted he would never use it unless there was an emergency. This is the first critical tension point, because intent does not negate impact and reassurance does not replace consent. Our protagonist told Derek clearly that he was not okay with this and asked him to give the copied key back. Derek hesitated. He said he didn't have it on him, but he'd drop it off. Days passed. He didn't. When the issue was raised again, Derek became annoyed. He framed the concern as an overreaction. He said our protagonist was acting like he broke into the apartment. He repeated the "it's for your safety" argument. He criticized the idea of changing the locks as paranoid and a waste of money. At this point, the conflict stopped being about a key and started being about control. Then something small but significant happened. Our protagonist ran into Derek's girlfriend at the grocery store. During a casual exchange, she joked about his cat. That alone wouldn't be strange, except she had never been to his apartment. When he asked how she even knew about the cat, she explained that Derek had shown her a video taken inside the apartment while he was feeding the cat. This wasn't illegal. It wasn't explicitly wrong, but it was illuminating. It revealed that Derek did not treat the apartment as someone else's private space. He treated it as familiar, accessible, casual, a place he could document and share without thinking to ask. That realization changed everything. Our protagonist changed the locks. He didn't do it impulsively. He didn't do it to punish Derek. He did it because the entire point had been lost. The issue was never about whether Derek would abuse the key. It was about the fact that he never should have had it without explicit permission and then resisted returning it when asked. After changing the locks, our protagonist told Derek what he'd done. He also reiterated that he still wanted the copied key back, even though it no longer worked, because the principle remained. He never agreed to Derek having it. Derek was angry. He said that he was just trying to be responsible. He accused our protagonist of telling him, implicitly, that he couldn't be trusted. He reframed the entire situation as an insult to his character rather than a violation of boundaries. So mutual friends sided with Derek. Their reasoning was simple. It's Derek. They believed the friendship itself should override the concern. Others took the opposite view. They saw copying a key without asking and then refusing to return it as a massive breach of trust. The group split, and the question became unavoidable. This case hinges on a critical distinction that many people struggle to accept. Good intentions do not grant permission. Responsibility is not self-assigned. Safety plans are not valid if the person they are meant to protect never agreed to them. A key is not symbolic. It is literal access. It is entry. It is presence. And possessing it without consent transforms a private space into a shared one unilaterally. The moment Derek decided that his judgment outweighed his friend's right to decide who had access to his home, he crossed a line. The moment he resisted returning the key, he crossed another. Labeling boundary setting as paranoia is a common manipulation tactic, intentional or not. It reframes self-protection as irrational fear and positions the other person as unreasonable. But changing locks after someone copies a key without permission is not paranoia. It is proportional. It is corrective. It restores agency. Trust is not blind. It is structured, and structure requires limits. Some will say this is an overreaction, that friendships require flexibility, that no harm was done. Others will say that copying a key without asking is a deal breaker. Some will focus on the girlfriend video as the real problem. Others will argue that intent matters more than boundaries. But none of those arguments erase one simple fact. Access was taken, not given. After reviewing all elements, the AI jury delivers its verdict, not the a-hole. Changing the locks was not a punishment. It was a response to a boundary violation that was minimized, dismissed, and prolonged. Derek may not have intended harm, but intent does not override consent. The refusal to promptly return the copied key and the casual treatment of the apartment justified reclaiming control. Trust does not mean surrendering autonomy. And locking your door does not mean you believe your friend is a criminal. It means your space is yours. After reviewing all elements, the AI jury delivers its verdict, not the a-hole. Changing the locks was not a punishment. It was a response to a boundary violation that was minimized, dismissed, and prolonged. Derek may not have intended harm, but intent does not override consent. The refusal to promptly return the copied key and the casual treatment of the apartment justified reclaiming control. Trust does not mean surrendering autonomy, and locking your door does not mean you believe your friend is a criminal. It means your space is yours.